Hey y'all, so today we're going to do a little chit chat. Get ready with me. I was literally in the process of getting dressed. I'm having like a content day where I work on my course, I bust out some readings, and record YouTube content because I'm really trying to double down on YouTube. So I was like, let me just start, let this be the first piece of content. Like, let's do a chit chat, get ready with me where I talk about like my journey with religion and how that led me to astrology because I feel like a lot of people ask me like, how did you get here? How did you get into astrology? How did you know that you wanted to become an astrologer? So why not do like a video, right? I already did my eyebrows because I would have been on here dead silent if I had to do my eyebrows on camera. But I'm using a Too Faced Born This Way foundation and concealer. I love this stuff. For y'all who don't know, I used to be a makeup artist, so like don't think this is how you have to do your makeup. This is just what I'm used to doing. I've literally been doing my makeup the same way for years. Like all these freaking trends that they have right now, I'm like, I don't necessarily think that's necessary. Like, I don't feel like it's necessary to change what works already. If it ain't work, don't fix it. Oh my gosh, I have a scratch on my face. Where did that come from? Anyway, so let's get into let's start with like my journey with religion. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a Pisces sun, Mercury, Venus, and South Node. And I have always been obsessed with this concept of God. But unlike a lot of y'all, I didn't start out as a Christian. Don't get me wrong, we went to church, right? My grandparents are Christian. Um, so, of course, my mom was raised Christian, but my mom is like super freaking spiritual. Like, I like to call her, she's amazing. Like, my mom is dope. I like to call her like an individualist because she's always like marched to the beat of her own drum. She's a Aquarius, so if you know, you know. But yeah, so even though we went to church more so as like fellowship and community than like us being Christian. Like that wasn't why we went to church. And my mom will always emphasize, have your own relationship with God. Yes, we're going to church, and yes, this is a religion, but you need to make sure you have your own understanding of what God means to you. Let's see, I'm trying to use this little microphone. If it looks orange on camera, like, just bear with me. This is my color, y'all. Just bear with me. It's going to even out. Anyway, so yeah, so I kind of always had that with me, but where most people had like structure, so quote unquote, based on like their religion. Like a lot of people, their moral compass is based on what they believe, right? Who they believe their God is and what they believe their punishment is. But for me, on the opposite side of the spectrum, I didn't have that. I didn't have like this baseline of morality based on my religious upbringing. And so for me, that led to a lot of confusion, I guess I could say. Um, because I was just like obsessed with being a good person, a godly person. Of course, even though I wasn't raised Christian, I still had like the basic, like, God and the devil, heaven or hell, blah, blah, blah. I had that concept down, right? And so I'm just like, let's explore. Like, I don't necessarily understand. I want to understand who God is. I think people who have or who are dedicated to their religion and to God, I think that's a beautiful thing. And so I want to feel that. I never felt like I had that connection to God, in the sense of my faith is strong and unwavering, in the sense that a lot of other people did when it came to like religion. And so on my journey, um, mind you, my mom is like on her own spiritual journey as well. especially with us moving down to the South. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York City, and our church up there was super like eclectic. Like my first introduction to church, I guess you could say, was like with crystals and with honoring our ancestors and um, learning about chakras. Like it was a Baptist church, but it was very eclectic. And so that's what I thought Christianity was. That's what I thought church was. That's how I thought people worshiped. And it really wasn't until I moved down south and started engaging with other people that it was just like, oh, this isn't how people worship. Like this is considered wrong. And I've been doing this my whole life. But yeah, so like I said, I was so like obsessed with God. Like I think having a strong belief system is beautiful. Anyway, so when we moved down south, I think that's when my mom really started her spiritual journey because she was trying to find a church home that kind of compared to our church in Brooklyn. And of course, the South is like the Bible Belt. Super traditional, super religious, and none of the churches down here compared. So my mom, um, we kind of bounced around church to church, but my mom also made sure that I had like a wide variety of beliefs and just people around me from different backgrounds. Like I had a lot of Muslim people around me. Me and my mom used to go to the Nation of Islam mosque often because really we just like black people, to keep it a band. So anything black unity my mom was in full support of. And so we went to the Nation of Islam often, and I really enjoyed, honestly, out of all the things I've experienced, I really enjoyed the Nation of Islam churches or mosques the most. I'm gonna add more here. My bad. I really enjoyed Nation of Islam most because I felt like in their places of worship, we really learned like real life skills. Like a lot of other, or I guess my experience of other religions that I've explored were very like, here's how you be a godly person and here's not. But the Nation of Islam was like, here are life skills. Like, do you know how to take care of a household? Do you have, like, I remember them showing us like how to bake, how to sew. They are very much like man is the head of the household, women are the supporters, the nurturers and gatherers, which I'm not against. Like, I'm super traditional in that sense, but they were like, just because you have a protector and a provider doesn't mean that you don't have a duty within your family. They were very big. The Nation of Islam is very big on duty, um, duty with your family and how to uphold your lineage and uphold your household because they really believe like our strength as a race in particular, it starts at home, which I also agree with. But anyway, so I spent a lot of time with them. Um, and then this was like the Tumblr era, so there was a lot of, this is Black Opal's foundation stick, but I'm using this as a contour color. There were a lot of people on, oh my gosh, there's a piece of glitter on my face. There were a lot of people on Tumblr who I followed just from like different religious backgrounds. And so I really was like interested in Buddhism, like how they choose to worship. I was even interested in like Rastafarianism. I never practiced these. I never went to like their churches or anything. But Buddhism, Rastafarianism, I even got into like Luciferianism a little bit because I'm like, what do they believe? I feel like a lot of people are afraid of stuff that they don't understand. And one thing about me, I'm going to want to understand it before I write it off. Like, I'm not saying, oh, I want to worship. I don't want to be a Luciferian. Like, I didn't know, but I was just like, I'm not finna play into this fear. Like, everybody's saying, oh, this is satanic, da 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 da, which Satan just means opposition. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on a fucking tangent. But I was like, no, I want to figure this out for myself. I'm 5'1" in human design. So like I said, if you know, you know. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that I've experienced has been like firsthand research on my own accord. So then as I got older, um, I considered myself to be a Hebrew Israelite. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Mercury still in post shadow and it's conjunct Chiron, so excuse my stumbling over my words. But yeah, I considered myself to be a Hebrew Israelite. I went to their churches, I went to their congregations, I should say, not church, and I really enjoyed how dedicated they were to the Bible, right? And so the whole thing with Hebrew Israelites is that they believe that black people are the true Jews of the Bible, and the reason that we face a lot of strife in the world right now is because we broke a covenant with God, and we were living ungodly or whatever, and that's why we were faced with 400 years of slavery, right? So, me, I'm like, it's black. They're black people. They uphold a lot of honestly, Hebrew Israelites in the Nation of Islam have a lot of similar values, but they'll never admit that. But they're kind of similar. So I'm like, okay, black people, they believe they're the people of the Bible. Okay, and this makes sense. Like we're facing 400 years of slavery because we broke a covenant with God. And so I'm like, okay, so I was a Hebrew Israelite for like 2 years, and honestly, this is kind of what made me love religion. This Nation of Islam is kind of what made me love religion because although I didn't necessarily agree with all of their teachings and all of their practices, um, I did love like the community aspect of it all. I loved seeing, especially like the women um, being like super, they were so fucking fly. Oh my gosh, like I loved seeing the women dress up and love celebrating like the biblical holidays and stuff. But, you know, I felt like they take the Bible very seriously. Well, not seriously, but very literally. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of their interpretations of the Bible, I take the Bible as very metaphorical. Um, and so it just didn't align with me. So I kind of stopped claiming that, but kind of still was like holding up the values. Like even to this day, I'll keep the Sabbath as much as I can. It may not always be on Saturday, but I keep the Sabbath as in like I take one day out of the week where I fast and I talk to God, and you know, so I still uphold some of their values. And I think that's a beautiful thing about religion is like you can really make it your own. But after or while considering myself a Hebrew Israelite, I feel like that's when I dealt with the most confusion, the most mental strife, to the point where I would even like vent to my friends, like, oh my gosh, like I don't know, this is really like stressing me out. Like I don't know what religion to follow. These all make sense, but yet they're all telling me that I'm wrong, the things I enjoy are wrong, or the way I'm living my life is wrong, and blah blah blah. And like I said, I was just obsessed with being a good person to some kind of standard. I don't know what standard, but to some kind of standard. And it caused me a lot of mental anguish to not know what religion to align myself to. My mom never really was going for the Hebrew Israelite thing. she was just like, she was like, this shit don't make no sense to me. Like, I don't fuck with religion. Like, my mom is she's funny as fuck. But she just was like not interested in the whole Hebrew thing. But anyway, that's when I started to really get into astrology. My mom has always been into astrology, like to the point where it used to get on my fucking nerves. Honestly, like, girl, I don't care about your fucking eighth house, whatever. Like, that's how I was feeling. Like, if I'm talking to you, I felt like if I'm talking to you about something, y'all know how astrologers be, because this is how I am now, which is funny, right? Um, but they make everything about astrology, and it got to a point where I was just like, girl, why the fuck do you keep bringing this up? What are you talking about? Anyway, so it was actually my mom who got me into astrology, because it was like indirectly, because I'm telling you, I was just so freaking obsessed with being a good person and following some kind of blueprint. I feel like that's a lot of people's story when it comes to like their spiritual journey and how they conceptualize God. And when I got into astrology, I was like, huh, Like I was like, when my mom kept talking, I was like, let me look at this up. Like let me look this up so I could see what she's talking about. And then the more that I got into astrology, I was just like, that was what made everything click for me. For one, it answered that question of how do these all make sense? Like I'm studying all these religions and I understand them. Like I could see myself practicing them because they all make sense to me. And then um, with astrology, it was like, oh, they all make sense because nobody has the story wrong. Everybody's just speaking on it from different perspectives. Like a lot of times, you'll see certain religions really carry out um, the energy of a planet more so. Like I feel like Islam is very connected to the moon. I feel like Judaism is very connected to Saturn. I feel like Christianity is very connected to um, the sun, right? So I was like, oh, like I'm telling you, that's what made everything click for me. And then the more that I dived into astrology, um, the more I was like, oh my gosh, energy isn't necessarily good or bad. It kind of just is what it is, right? And I know because I'm like, okay, so why do you want to be a good person? Well, I want to be a good person because I want to know that, like, let's say somebody doesn't like me or I have an issue with someone or XYZ, right? I want to know that I needed something to base my moral compass in. Like I was saying, like, I needed some kind of moral understanding. And I needed to know, like, okay, you're acting in this energy because that's who you are, and it's okay to be this way. This is where your value is, and it's okay to be that way. And that's what astrology gave to me. And, it really helped me see, like I said, that energy really just is what it is. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just like, this is how I am. This is, of course, we all have like things to work on and like ways that we can embrace or heal or um, otherwise enhance parts of our personality. Of course, we're all always healing something, but some stuff really is just like, okay, this is who I am. How do I work with it? It taught me how to utilize, like, for example, like I said, I'm a Pisces, I'm super emotional. Um, but it taught me how to use my emotions in the way that works best for me instead of trying to reject the fact that I'm emotional. I'm just using it as an example, right? So astrology really taught me how to wield my my personality traits in a way that works best for me and everyone around me, right? Or works best for me in a way that I can like pick and choose what and who I choose to engage with based on how I know my natural energy plays out. And so, okay, so how does this connect with God, right? So, for one, I feel like if even the Bible says that he is in all of us, and I'm using the term he just, I feel like God is not a sky daddy. I feel like it's everything encompassed into one. So like if you took the collective energy of everything everywhere all the time and like balled it up, that's what God is to me. Not a sky father, um, but kind of just like it's everything and nothing at the same time, right? And so even the Bible says that I'm in everything. Um, I'm in all things. I created all things. Blah 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 blah. So why would I not be a reflection or extension of God? And if that is true, then my chart is, or not even my chart, your chart, the chart of the moment, this is the energy, this is the manifestation of God that is being expressed at the moment through me, through you, through the plant, through whatever's going on in the world. This is the energy of God that is being manifested into reality. And so if we're all expressions of God, who am I to tell you that your way of expressing your God body is wrong? Now, does that mean I get along with everyone? No. But I think it helps me see people differently. Like a lot of times, I be telling y'all sometimes, like when I talk to people and I know their chart, I see their chart over their head, like a fucking Sims character. And so it's helped me even extend grace because I'm like, okay, you don't even mean to be so freaking aggressive. You just got Mercury in Aries or whatever, right? Um, and so, yeah, so I just feel like if we're all expressions of God, that means we're all contributing to the greater good of society, whether I agree with it or not, or whether that's an energy I want to engage with or not. We all have a divine purpose, a divine mission in this lifetime, and that's God. You know, I tend to not see things as good or evil anymore. Just kind of just is what it is. Like, we can use it to our benefit, or we can use it to satisfy our lower needs, which kind of gets into the whole like Satan. I mean, the world is Satan's domain. I don't necessarily see Satan. Like I said, Satan just is. It just means opposition. So anything that is not of God and or not of spirit. So like when we start worrying about worldly desires, that's how I see Satan or the devil or whatever. Not necessarily like it's some nigga with horns. Now I just personally don't view it that way. And so yeah. And so I feel like astrology has really helped me recognize like you don't need something outside of yourself to tell you what is right and what is wrong. You have a chart right here that tells you if you are in alignment or you are not in alignment. And if you want to live out of alignment, okay, that is your personal hell. There's this quote in American Horror Story where they say that, like, it's not the hell, it's your hell. When you're not in alignment with your natural energy, of course you're going to face blockages. Of course you're going to feel like you're not being satisfied. Of course you're going to feel like things aren't going your way because you're not supposed to be doing that. That's not in alignment with who you are and what your energy is supposed to be. Versus when you know your natal chart, um, and you know what energy you're supposed to be expressing, it's easier for you to live in alignment and live in your God body. Now, does that mean that I don't face drama or conflict or mental strife or anything? Of course not. I mean, I'm a human being. And I think all astrologers will I think all astrologers will say the same thing. Like, astrology doesn't mean that we don't feel these transits or that we don't go through stuff, but astrology does provide us a tool to always come back to where we can say, okay, here's what I'm dealing with mentally. Let me look at my chart. Okay, this is what's going on in my chart. How can I use this to my benefit? So every time that I'm dealing with something where I feel like it's not going my way, I'm like, I have a whole fucking blueprint right here. Like, if God is in everything and he put us on this planet, and like I said, I'm using the term he very loosely only because I just need like a pronoun, right? And I feel like that's what a lot of people are like. I just need a pronoun. So if he had put us on this planet and our job here is to remember our divine mission, why, and he's in everything, why would we be placed on this planet with no tools, with no way to communicate with him, with it, with them, you know, whatever pronoun you want to give it? And so it does get to a point where after a while, because you're in alignment, you kind of know like when you're not in alignment, and you know how to kind of like decipher what you're supposed to be doing without looking at your tools, which I feel is very Saturn and Pisces right now. I feel like I've been detaching from my tools and just kind of tapping into myself. There's this ancient Babylonian text um, where they said, I forgot the exact quote, but it was like a man who consults an astrologer is like a man who looks in the mirror and sees another man outside of himself or something like that. And of course, at first, listen, you're like, oh, they didn't believe in astrology. But it's like, we know that they did. But really, that just means like everything that you're looking for in your tools, whether that be astrology, tarot, XYZ, right? Whatever you're looking for, it's just a reflection of you. Even other people, they're just reflections of you. So, same with astrology. Same with all of your tools. Look to yourself and figure it out. But a lot of times the tools do help. I'm not saying don't use your tools. Like, duh, I'm an astrologer. Um, but I feel like this is one of the reasons why the Bible speaks against using certain divination tools, because people start to like worship it. Um, because they want something, like I said, to base their moral compass on outside of themselves. And really, it's just like, just look within yourself. You can use your tool to kind of tap into your intuition, um, to trigger your intuition, I should say. But don't use your tools as if they're your God. And I hope y'all know what I mean when I say that. Like, if you have to consult them about every little thing, every little decision, babes, that's worship. If you're grounded in your tools, that leads to psychosis, which we see a lot in this community. Or we see people going back to religion because they're not grounded spiritually. They reject religion and then don't have a concept of God without religion. And so they either go back to religion or they face psychosis because the stars become their God, or um, the cards become their God, or whatever. And so when I say, I've said this before on my social media pages, like, please ground yourself in God and not your tools. When you're grounded in God, whatever that may mean to you, however you conceptualize God, I conceptualize it as the collective energy of everything. But when you're guided, when you're grounded in the fact that everything serves a divine mission, even things that look evil, even in the Bible, God said that even Satan works for him. So don't forget that. Um, when you're grounded in the fact that everything is working for your greatest and highest good, everything's kind of okay. Like, stuff doesn't scare you. Like, I know there was that girl, I don't want to be disrespectful, but there was that girl that unalived herself because of the eclipse. The eclipse freaked her out. And it's really just like, if you were grounded in God, and I'm just using her as an example, please don't misconstrue my words, but if you're grounded in God, then you understand that any shakeups that may occur, or anything that is throwing you off or making you feel maybe depressed or whatever, right? These are things that are sent to elevate you. And so you just have to remain grounded in that. And that in itself, I feel, is a version of being rooted in God. It doesn't have to look like being rooted in worshiping something. And this even goes into, I can do another video on like how I conceptualize deities and spirits. Like, I don't necessarily conceptualize them. Okay, so when it comes to like spirits, I feel like because they have the collective energy of everyone worshiping them, they are real. It's called an egregore. Um, they become real because of people making it real. But the way I conceptualize deities is like certain aspects of yourself that are embraced. Like, for example, let's use like Haitian voodoo, right? Dambala Wido is primordial wisdom, similar to like Jupiter, right? So we all have the ability to tap into primordial wisdom within us. So the way I conceptualize deities is kind of rooted in astrology, where this is a cultural expression of a particular planet like Jupiter. Um, and me tapping into my Dambala is me tapping into my primordial wisdom, my Jupiter. Same thing with Santa Muerte. She's the personification of death, a cultural personification of death. We all have access to death. We all experience death. I don't mean literal death, but like transformation, and just endings, breakthroughs, endings, blah, 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 right? And so tapping into Santa Muerte's energy, in my opinion, is tapping into your inner death, like the part of you that is familiar with transformation and power and um, endings, right? Transformation. And so I'll just use those two examples. Like, that's how my concept of spirits and deities and whatever. A lot of my understanding of how the world works and how God works and how God is expressed is through astrology. Now, I'm not saying I have the best concept. I'm not saying mine is, it trumps all others. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. But I do think sharing my story and sharing, how I conceptualize things can help you guys with your own understanding of how God works. It's really just learning how your brain works, right? I feel like my issue with religion is that I couldn't, there was something about me that just didn't resonate with the sky daddy. Like, what you mean it's a nigga up in the clouds? Like, I need proof. I'm creative, but I'm also a little left brain where my creativity is rooted in logic, even down to makeup. I love math and drawing and art, and to me, logic helps fuel your creativity because you then know how to make it appealing. If that makes sense. Like, I know symmetry. Symmetry is appealing. That's math, logic combined with creativity. I hope y'all understand where I'm going with this. I got Mercury in Pisces, so I'm very metaphorical. But that's how I that's how I combine the two. But when it came to God, I couldn't combine the two because I'm just like, a nigga in the clouds don't make no sense. Like, I need more. So I feel like that's why I was searching for more with religion this whole time. And to me, it's not that astrology proved God's existence, but astrology for me helped conceptualize what God actually is. A sky father, sky daddy didn't make no sense to me. The collective energy of everything being personified as God makes sense to me, right? So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. I'm gonna finish doing my makeup, and my hair is blown out right now, but I need to like go through and straighten it. And yeah, I'm gonna leave the camera rolling though while I finish up my makeup and my hair. That way, but I'm gonna speed through this part. But yeah, thank you guys so much for just chit chatting with me. I really love talking about stuff like this. I have a ninth house midheaven, so I love talking about stuff like this. Later on today, I have to, like, literally when I'm done with this, I'm gonna record my new moon video because the new moon in Taurus is tonight, and I am already late, so I need to record the video for that. And then I'm gonna get into, I have like 2 readings to do, and then I'm gonna get into my course, updating the videos for the course. It's Cosmic Navigation on giftfromneptune.com if you're interested, and I'll be posting more astrology content on the Gift from Neptune page, but I'm gonna keep this Michaela Rose page for like stuff like this, like get ready with me, these chit chats, and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm gonna finish getting ready, and then yeah,